Hey everybody, welcome back to another film of the week. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. As you can tell by my voice, we're still a little, just in a recovery period. So once again, as I've said in other videos, just excuse my voice if it's a little bit deeper than normal. But that's not going to stop me from producing content because I'm actually in a much better state than I was a few days ago. So I'm just getting ready here, and yeah. So we're going to discuss today another favorite of mine. Just lately, just been kind of, um, I wouldn't say removed from watching movies, but I find it better just to discuss film rather than digest film right now. So I'm just kind of pausing myself a little bit. Obviously, I will get back to watching um, the films pretty soon here because we actually have some releases coming down the pipe. Um, and of course, for these segments, we'll have uh, more recent viewings in the future. But this film I really want to talk about because I adore it so much, kind of giving away how I feel about the movie at the start. But it's a film definitely worth talking about. That film being Manchester by the Sea, which was written and directed by Kenneth Lonergan, whose credits include Margaret from 2011, which had a bit of a production history, a rough post-production history. Also did You Can Count on Me with Mark Ruffalo and Laura Lennon and Matthew Broderick, who Matthew Broderick would also come to be in Manchester by the Sea. Um, Starring Casey Affleck as Lee Chandler, who you find is a janitor. He's just kind of repairs things, looks at things, cleans at things, and he's very uh, removed. He seems a bit removed from just social life and in general. Something is bothering him. We cannot tell what that is. He also seems fairly aggressive as he has this encounter at the bar at the beginning, um, where he gets drunk and he's just getting real pissy and gets into a fight. And he gets a phone call from a hospital, informing him that his brother, who is, I believe, is fighting fighting cancer, um, suffers a cardiac arrest, and Lee decides to travel back to the old town of which where his brother is, hospital in the hospital. And when he gets there, he uh, he learns, of course, of his brother's passing, and has to inform his that his brother's son, who would be, of course, a nephew to him, and the two start to form a little bit of a bond, and the guardianship of the nephew is bestowed on him. His brother, in one of his dying wishes, and his in his will, gives the guardianship of his nephew to Lee Chandler. And Lee Chandler is now tasked to raise his nephew while simultaneously uh, uh, navigating his past, quite literally, in the town of which really bad things had happened to him in his past, which inform a lot of who he is today and why though his persona and the way that he chooses to live life is the way that it is and why it is so isolating. Um, so, uh, the film explores a lot about emotional trauma and a lot about many things about depression, about grief, about guilt, um, a lot to do with how certain events transform us and how they shape our personalities, and they represent that from somebody who has already gone through an event, and you see how that event transforms them, and then through the nephew being played by Lucas Hedges, um, how through time you see how that transforms that person. So it's, it's different. It's showing two different points in time within the same messaging. Uh, with Casey Affleck, of course, being the person who's gone through with it, and with Lucas Hedges, who is currently dealing with it. So, and Michelle Williams also stars as Lee Chandler's wife, and Kyle Chandler as the brother. And this movie particularly hits me quite a bit, as I can. There's relations, I shall say, that I have. There's stuff to it that I can relate to on personal levels, but but I don't mean to, like, kind of get personal, but just I got just to say, I can. There's a gravity to Lee Chandler's character that that firstly comes from the writing, which I think is just excellent. Kenneth Lonergan's script is just without bound. It is amazing. The details within just the just specifics, like just how it's written, the with the language, and with the inflections from the performances, which is the second component that is absolutely strong, is the surrounding performances, specifically Casey Affleck, who I think delivers one of the best performances in years. I think his performance in this is just incredible. I think he really captures, like, when people play characters that are depressed, when people play characters that are driven, they always have a certain edge to them, a certain aggression to them, which I'm not saying is not representative. I mean, everyone deals with grief and deals with certain emotions in very different ways, but the portrayal of Lee Chandler, the way that Casey chooses to hold this character, is so raw and so honest and so authentic in design. Like the way that he just holds himself, and the way that Lee Chandler ultimately holds himself throughout this movie, it's very real. It doesn't feel like like you know dramatized. It doesn't feel artificial. It doesn't feel like we're trying to go bigger. It just feels so in the moment, and the character itself is like, it's a character that I just immediately attach to, especially once you get that understanding as to what his grief is, where that stems from. When you get that answer, which is fairly early in the film, you immediately understand and resonate with that character, and every action that that character takes makes complete sense, and nothing feels like a challenge to the character. You're all in sympathy for that character, and rightfully so, because of what the character is going through. The other performances are also amazing. Michelle Williams is just dynamite in this. She's amazing. Kyle Chandler is great. Lucas Hedges is also good in it. I feel like the actor sometimes is a little full of themselves, to be honest, Lucas Hedges, but that kind of full of himself type persona that I kind of get from the actor himself works to the benefit of the character that he plays here, because he's playing a teenager, someone who thinks this and that, like, everybody is on their A game here. Like, everybody here is on their A game. Lonergan's directing is also very, very strong, letting shots play and then certain shots being edited. There's great pacing involved here. And the underlining showcase of humor, while I do feel can be, I wouldn't say unwarranted. I feel that it helps balance out the overall tone of the film. I do feel it can be a little unnecessary, because I get what they're trying to do is to try to find the humor within such dark themes, or at least find some lightheartedness within such darkness. I get it. I get the idea and the approach to it and the overall purpose, like, of why it's there. But in the context of the character of Lee Chandler, who we're following, it just doesn't feel like it's completely, completely needed. But it is necessary in balancing that tone. Might just saying for overall developments and characterizations and just discussing purely on a narrative thing, not just a tone thing, talking more about the narrative itself. That underlining humor, I can make an argument to where it might not need it to be there, but I understand and accept that it is there, and to a certain extent, I'm glad that it's there because of how it balances out the overall mood of the film. So, and it also, at times lends itself to giving that room for relationships to be more natural. Because if the film was just all dreary and bleak, certain relationships would not come across as genuine, like the Lucas Hedges and Casey Affleck dynamic. I don't think would have been as real if the film had pushed itself to that more dark and more bleak edge, so that for the humor to exist, or for that that feeling of humor, I guess you could say, because it's not being so vicious or so like upfront with it. It's very subtle. You could sense that there's a humorous edge to this, or at least that there is a shade of it, somewhere lingering in the background. And it's good in building those relationships and stuff like that. So what I'm saying is that it's good as a background, like template, like something that's good as background. But I argue I don't know if it's good for overall characterization, and for development. Like I'm wondering what the function of the humor is for. What's the purpose of it? Is it for just specifically to strengthen those relationships, or is it also to give certain development, certain characterizations to the narrative itself, which I would argue I don't think is completely necessary. But beyond that one quibble, that one little hiccup, everything about this is fantastic. The writing, the directing, the framing, the acting. The acting is just from Casey Affleck is unbelievable. Like, it is an incredible performance from Casey Affleck. There's been comparisons to Marlon Brando from On the Waterfront, which, to my memory of On the Waterfront, they're similar by aesthetic. I mean, yes, they kind of share very similar aesthetics with like the jackets and with the haircut. There definitely is a visual inspiration from Marlon Brando's character, but to my memory of On the Waterfront, they're not entirely the same character. So perhaps On the Waterfront being more of a dramatized depiction of such themes, where this is much more sitting in a sense of realism, authenticity. So perhaps that's why there might be that distinction between the two. But aesthetically, there is definitely that similarity there. I mean, it's just uncanny when you just see photos of Marlon Brando from that film and Casey Affleck in this. There's definitely that inspiration that is there. But there's many weavings of certain emotional issues, or different displays of depression, of grief. PTSD becomes a factor in this when you discuss Lucas Hedges' character. What it means to have a responsibility, and the gray area within that, and the overall humanity, within these characters. Specifically Lee Chandler, you completely understand his view and why he chooses to do the things that he does. Can you deem it selfish? Sure, but it's totally justified. You totally understand where he's coming from. It's a man who is continuously grieving and is taking the weight of taking the responsibility of something that obviously he has no um, responsibility for. He has no responsibility for what happened that one that one night. I won't spoil what it is for anybody who hasn't seen this movie. Because I really want you guys to see this. It's just really powerful stuff. There's specific scenes that are also very, just really hit you to the core. There's a scene of attempt, we shall say, just to keep it PG-13 on this video. Um, you know, uh, you know what I'm referring to. But yeah, that scene definitely is alarming. Um, there's the scene that honestly that sticks to me the most. Two scenes actually is there's a scene where Casey Affleck wakes up from a dream. I won't spoil what that dream is because that kind of spoils a really big aspect of the film. But he wakes up from a dream and the smoke alarm goes off because he dozed off and he was like cooking eggs or something, and um, and you see him immediately cry and you get why. And I honestly choke up thinking about that sequence because to me to me it's a very strong showcase of trauma and what that and the effects of on that person, the lasting effects. Just very small things here and there, smoke. As it's a trigger. You see how that affects a person, like and the daily grind at it. It's not easy, and that scene really hits me a lot. And the scene that followed afterwards actually also hits me a lot, where Casey Affleck goes to Lucas Hedges and he kind of lays out a plan, we shall say, again without spoiling anything, and you see how you see where this character is at, and it's rather tragic. It's a tragic character, and the movie ultimately is a tragedy. And it's also a proper ghost story, as is a tragedy by about um, talking about emotional turmoils and about mentalities uh, and how our personalities are shaped. Talking a lot about psychology. It also is a lot to do about within discussing trauma. It also plays a lot to being a ghost story about it, kind of like a haunted house sort of scenario where, as he navigates the town, everything kind of like just speaks to him, and we as the audience feel that, where he just kind of glances, where Casey Affleck at times maybe glances over and looks at something, and you see the kind of the fear or the the anger on his face when he looks at it, as it reminds him of something, or the literal thing of what he's seeing. There's that impulse where he wants to like punch the window or something like that. It's 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 just really really powerful stuff, and it's very well constructed, brilliantly written. The directing is just chef's kiss. The acting is also just chef's kiss. Casey Affleck is a tour de force. This is his magnum opus, as I think what they say. Um, just a brilliant performance, um, with the strengths of its directing and its writing and of its ensemble. You get something that is just a powerful, heavily resonant, um, properly tempered. As I said, I love this balance between bleakness and this underlining idea of humor. Um, though like I said, narratively, I'm not sure if it needed to exist to a certain capacity. Um, that's my only quibble with it. But performances just knocked me out. The directing knocked me out. The writing knocked me out. It's it's extremely real. It's extremely real. It's not a film that at any point feels fake. It is a film that is stewed in realism, and for that you get performances and just a atmosphere that is built that never ever comes across as stagey, or as because it has that whisper where it could have leaned into that, where it could have like just devolved into like a stage play. And I think that he is a playwright, if I'm not mistaken. Kenneth Lonergan. He is, yeah, he is a playwright. So it does have that little, that little whisper of like staginess, but thankfully it's very, 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 very subtle, and it is, just functioning as just a great, great piece of psychology and a study of certain emotions and what those emotions do to a person and the transformation, how a person may devolve, or how they end up in the places that they are. So it's really good. I love this so much. And if you haven't seen it, please like watch it. It is just incredible. And apparently Matt Damon was going to star in it, but I guess he just couldn't get around to shooting the movie. But thankfully Casey Affleck did this, because I mean, Matt Damon's okay. Casey Affleck is a way better actor, just way, way better than Ben Affleck. Also, like, just no competition. Yeah, just amazing, amazing movie with an incredible performance from Casey Affleck. So yeah, he hasn't done a movie since this, and honestly, with how films are made nowadays, and considering just the limited, just considering how he might get wrapped up in the mainstream culture, that's just how it is now with all these smaller time directors. I'm glad that he hasn't made a film since this, because this is truly a masterpiece, and I don't think he can get any better. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on Manchester by the Sea. I absolutely adore this. This is just wonderful. A beautiful, beautiful portrait of emotions and psychology, tragedy, of ghosts from our past. It's just really, really great. So if you guys have seen it, let me know your thoughts on Manchester by the Sea in the comment section below. Do you guys think Casey Affleck was great? He did deserve the Oscar that year. Yes, he did. I know some of y'all are just like, he was fucking great. Okay, he was amazing. And I don't give a shit about Oscars and stuff like that, but man fucking deserved it that year. So, but you guys want to know your thoughts about Manchester by the Sea in the comment section below, and if there's anything that Kenneth Lonergan's doing next, or if any of his other work, like Margaret, let me know how those films work, because I'm curious to see his other work. But let me know all things Manchester by the Sea, all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in, and until then, I'll catch you guys in the next video.